Hi, listeners. I hope you're feeling well, and I hope your family is prospering in the new global economy, at least to the extent they deserve. For the next couple of hours, I will be your content provider. Regarding the title of this book, Napalm and Silly Putty, some time ago I was struck by the fact that among many other wondrous things, man has had the imagination to invent two such distinctly different products. One, a flaming jellied gasoline used to create fire, death, and destruction. The other, a clay-like mass good for throwing, bouncing, smashing, or pressing against a comic strip so you can look at a backwards picture of Popeye. I think the title serves as a fairly good metaphor for man's dual nature, while also providing an apt description of the kind of thoughts that occupy me, both in this book and in my daily life. On the one hand, I kind of like it when a lot of people die, and on the other, I always wonder how many unused frequent flyer miles they had. The only difference between lilies and turds is whatever difference humans have agreed upon, and I don't always agree. I had an interesting morning. I got into an argument with my Rice Krispies. I distinctly heard snap, crackle, fuck you. I'm not sure which one of them said it. I was reaching for the artificial sweetener at the time and not looking directly into the bowl. But I heard it, and I said, well, you can all just sit right there in the milk as far as I'm concerned until I find out which one of you said that. Mass punishment. The idea is to turn them against one another. Silly me. Big punishment. That's what Rice Krispies do. Sit in the milk. That's their job. You've seen them. Delicate beige blisters of air floating proudly in the milk. And you can't sink them. They refuse to sink. The Navy ought to use Rice Krispies and life preservers. That's where they're really needed. And do you know how Rice Krispies manage to float for such a long time? By clinging to one another. They buddy up. They gather in little groups of 8, 10, or sometimes 12, but if you've noticed, it's always an even number. That's because the electromagnetic polarity of the Krispies attracts them to one another. It binds them into pairs like subatomic particles. They form little colonies, and you can't sink them, not even with a spoon. They just come bobbing up over the sides of the spoon, laughing at you and reveling in their buoyancy. Hard to sink. That's what the fruit is for. Not for added taste, not for nutrition, it's for sinking the Rice Krispies. Believe me, a good-sized peach hurled at the bowl full force from a stepladder can take down 80 or 90 of the little buggers in one glorious splash. And I have absolutely no mercy. If I'm really pissed off, I'll climb up to the upstairs balcony and drop a watermelon on them. That'll teach them to sass me at breakfast. Most people understand that cats are completely different from dogs, and generally they like them for different reasons. One quality people like in cats is their independence. They appreciate a pet who can take care of himself. I never have to do a thing. He cleans his room, makes his own clothing, and drives himself to work. Unlike dogs who are needy and dependent, and who like you merely because you know where the food is located, cats don't get all hung up on fake affection. They don't go nuts and slobber all over you when you come home the way a dog does. They parcel out a certain limited amount of physical affection from time to time, but it probably has more to do with static electricity than anything else. Cats have another quality I find admirable: blamelessness. When a cat makes a mistake, he doesn't accept responsibility or show embarrassment. If he does something really stupid, like jumping up onto a table and landing in 4 separate coffee cups, somehow he passes the whole thing off as routine. Dogs aren't like that. If a dog knocks over a lamp, you can tell who did it by looking at the dog. He acts guilty and ashamed. Not the cat. When a cat breaks something, he simply moves along to the next activity. What's that? The lamp? Not me. Fuck that. I'm a cat. Something broken? Ask the dog. A cat can make any mistake appear intentional. You ever seen a cat race across a room and crash into a glass door? Doesn't faze him at all. Whoosh! Bam! I meant that. I actually meant that. That's exactly what I was trying to do. Then he limps behind the couch holding his head. Oh, Jesus. Fucking meow. Goddamn fucking meow. Your cat is much too proud to let you see him suffer. But if you look behind the couch, you'll see him recuperating from a domestic mishap. I tried to jump from the sofa to the window. Didn't make it. Tore a ligament. Got milk? Cats are very tactile. They love to rub against your leg. If you own a cat and you have a leg, you got a happy cat. Oh boy, I'm rubbing against his leg. How I love his leg. If you have 2 legs, you got yourself a party. Oh boy, 2 legs. Now I can do the figure 8. They love to do the figure 8. Around one leg, in between, and then around the other. Oh boy, I'm doing the figure 8. He'll rub against your legs even if you're not there yet. You might be 20 feet down the hall. As soon as he sees you coming, he starts walking sideways. He doesn't want to miss a shot at your legs. Oh boy, here he comes. Soon I'll be doing the figure 8. Cats are so tactile, you don't even have to do the petting. All you need is to put your hand somewhere near him, and he'll lean into you and do all the work. They love to push back. Then there's the ass trick. Did you ever stroke a cat who's lying absolutely flat, and before you've run your hand halfway down his back, his ass is sticking way up in the air, as if you pressed an ass button or something? Isn't he a cute little... Oh, holy shit, how did he do that? Or sometimes if he's on the bed with you, he'll climb onto your chest and stick his ass right in your face. Hey, here's my ass. Check my ass, Daddy. Get a nice clean look at my ass. And then while he's showing you his ass, he starts that kneading thing with his paws, like he's playing the piano. God, I hate that. Get him off of me. Jesus, I hate that. I don't even know what it is, and I hate that. It's as if he got a hold of some bad drugs or something. What is that? It's an instinctive nursing behavior, honey. He misses his mommy. You always say that. You said that about the mailman. The story is that if you're condemned to death, they have to give you one last meal of your choice. Now, what is that all about, anyway? I mean, a group of people plans to kill you, so they want you to eat something you like? Is it a joke? Do they think the food part will take your mind off the dying part? Or do they just prefer to kill you when you're coming off a peak experience and you're full of positive energy? I'm not sure what kind of sick game is going on, but what the hell, you might as well play along. Have a little fun. Order a Happy Meal. Tell them you want to go to Hooters and eat on the patio. Inform them you've converted to a religion that embraces cannibalism and you'd like to eat a baby with a small salad. I just think there's some great potential here for fun and mischief. In fact, I'm thinking that if you worked it just right, you might even squeeze a little extra time out of them. Time to file a couple of 100 more frivolous appeals. Because as I understand it, they have to give you any meal you ask for. Not including elephant, of course. You can't expect them to start in a whole new elephant just for one meal. But short of that, they have to give you pretty much what you want. It's part of the humanity involved. Let's kill this fuck, but let's be civil. So I say have a little fun. Buy some time. When they ask you what you want, tell them you can't decide. That's all there is to it. You can't decide. Gee, I don't know. I'm not sure if I want steak or lobster. I mean, I really love them both. Haven't had lobster in quite a while, but on the other hand, I really love chicken. It's my good luck food. And they're both rich in protein. I just can't figure it out. What can they do? Can they kill you under those circumstances? Can they go ahead and kill you if you honestly don't know what you want for dinner? Tell them you're willing to take a lie detector test and truth serum, but you honestly can't decide. Can they kill you? Huh? Can they drag you down the last mile screaming, "Surf, turf, I'm on the horns of a dilemma"? I think they'd have to give you a little more time. Imagine if you kept it up for 6 months. Think of the headlines. Condemned man still alive, can't decide, leans toward lobster. 3 years go by, 5, 7, and then finally one morning you wake up and it's clear as a bell. All right, I've decided, and I don't know why I didn't think of this a long time ago. I'm going to have the lamb chops. All right, lamb chops it is. And how did you want them cooked? Geez, I hadn't thought of that. Let me see. How do I want them cooked? Listen, guys, can I get back to you on that? Hungry man executed, dragged down last mile, screaming, "Medium!" Ah, to be a bird. To fly the skies, sing your song, and best of all, occasionally peck someone's eyes out. When he got loaded, the human cannonball knew there were not many men of his caliber. I don't like porno movies. They piss me off. First they show a great-looking naked woman who starts playing with herself, and while I'm watching, she sort of becomes my girlfriend. And then suddenly, in walks a guy with a big dick, and he starts fucking my girlfriend. Pisses me off. Most people with low self-esteem have earned it. Haven't we gone far enough with this colored ribbons for different causes? Every cause has its own color. Red for AIDS, blue for child abuse, pink for breast cancer. I got a brown one. You know what it means? Eat shit, motherfucker. I enjoy young people because they're really fucked up and they don't know what they're doing. I like that. I support all fucked up people, regardless of age. In that book, Tuesdays with Maury Schwartz had Lou Gehrig's disease. But what isn't generally known is that because of a mix-up at the hospital, Lou Gehrig had Hodgkin's disease. Hodgkin had Parkinson's disease, and Parkinson had Alzheimer's disease. Unfortunately, Alzheimer couldn't remember whose disease he had. He thinks it might have been Wally Pipp. Whenever you see more than two men sitting in a parked car after dark, you can be sure drugs are involved. When I die, I don't want to be buried, but I don't want to be cremated either. I want to be blown up. Put me on a pile of explosives and blow me up. Or throw my body from a helicopter. That would be fun. One stipulation, wherever I land, you have to leave me there, even if it's on the mayor's lawn. Just let me lie there. But keep the dogs away. Isn't it nice that once your parents are dead, they can't come back and start fucking with you again? The trouble with a sitcom is that every week it's the same group of irritating assholes. People who say they don't care what people think are usually desperate to have people think they don't care what people think. You know what would be great? To be in a coma. You know, you're still alive, but you have no responsibilities. He owes me $6,000. He's in a coma. Oh, okay. Never mind. If I had my choice of how to die, I'd like to be sitting on the crosstown bus and just suddenly burst into flames. Have you noticed that fluorescent lights seem afraid to come on? When you turn on a fluorescent light, it flickers and hesitates, and it's sort of unsure of itself. Then after several seconds, it seems to gain confidence and light up at full strength. What's that all about? Couldn't these lamps be given some sort of counseling? The Christians are coming to get you, and they are not pleasant people. I recently bought a book of free verse for $12. If the police never find it, is it still a clue? You know an odd feeling? Sitting on the toilet eating a chocolate candy bar. You can't argue with a good blowjob. I've thought it over, and I've decided pus is okay. Every 60 seconds, 30 acres of rainforest are destroyed in order to raise beef for fast food restaurants that sell it to people, giving them strokes and heart attacks, which raise the medical costs and insurance rates, providing insurance companies with more money to invest in large corporations that branch out further into the third world so they can destroy more rainforests. When I was a kid, if a guy got killed in a Western movie, I always wondered who got his horse. Advertising lullaby. Quality, value, style, service, selection, convenience, economy, savings, performance, experience, hospitality, low rates, friendly service, name brands, easy terms, affordable prices, money-back guarantee. Free installation, free admission, free appraisal, free alterations, free delivery, free estimates, free home trial, and free parking. No cash, no problem, no kidding, no fuss, no muss, no risk, no obligation, no red tape, no down payment, no entry fee, no hidden charges, no purchase necessary. No one will call on you, no payments or interest till September. Limited time only, though, so act now, order today, send no money, offer good while supplies last. 2 to a customer, each item sold separately, batteries not included, mileage may vary, all sales are final, allow 6 weeks for delivery, some items not available, some assembly required, some restrictions may apply. So come on in for a free demonstration and a free consultation with our friendly professional staff. Our experienced and knowledgeable sales representatives will help you make a selection that's just right for you and just right for your budget. And say, don't forget to pick up your free gift, a classic, deluxe, custom, designer, luxury, prestige, high-quality, premium, select, gourmet pocket pencil sharpener. Yours for the asking, no purchase necessary. It's our way of saying thank you. And if you act now, we'll include an extra added free complimentary bonus gift at no cost to you. A classic deluxe custom designer luxury prestige high-quality premium select gourmet combination key ring, magnifying glass, and garden hose in a genuine imitation leather-style carrying case with authentic vinyl trim. Yours for the asking, no purchase necessary. It's our way of saying thank you. Actually, it's our way of saying, bend over just a little bit farther so we can stick this big advertising dick up your ass a little bit deeper, a little bit deeper, a little bit deeper, you miserable, no-good, dumbass fucking consumer. Here's something we all have in common: flying on big airplanes and listening to the announcements, and trying to pretend the language they're using is English. Doesn't always sound like it to me. It starts at the gate. We'd like to begin the boarding process. Extra word, process, not necessary. Boarding is sufficient. We'd like to begin the boarding. Simple, tells the story. People add extra words when they want things to sound more important than they really are. Boarding process sounds important. It's not. It's just a group of people getting on an airplane. But to begin their boarding process, the airline announces they will pre-board certain passengers. And I wonder, how can that be? How can people board before they board? This I gotta see. But before anything interesting can happen, I'm told to get on the plane. Sir, you can get on the plane now. And I think for a moment, on the plane. No, my friends, not me. I'm not getting on the plane. I'm getting in the plane. Let Evel Knievel get on the plane. I'll be sitting inside in one of those little chairs. It seems less windy in there. Then they mention that it's a non-stop flight. Well, I must say I don't care for that sort of thing. Call me old-fashioned, but I insist that my flight stop, preferably at an airport. Somehow those sudden cornfield stops interfere with the flow of my day. And just about at this point, they tell me the flight has been delayed because of a change of equipment. And deep down I'm thinking, broken plane. And speaking of potential mishaps, here's a phrase that apparently the airlines simply made up. Near miss. They say that if two planes almost collide, it's a near miss. Bullshit, my friend. It's a near hit. A collision is a near miss. Look, they nearly missed. Yes, but not quite. Back to the flight. As part of all the continuing folderol, I'm asked to put my seat back forward. Well, unfortunately for the others in the cabin, I don't bend that way. If I could put my seat back forward, I'd be in porno movies. There's also a mention of carry-on luggage. First time I heard this term, I thought they said carry-on, and they were going to bring a dead deer on board. And I wondered, well, what the hell would they want with that? Don't they have those little TV dinners anymore? And then I thought, carry on, of course. People are going to be carrying on. It's a party. Well, I don't much care for that. Personally, I prefer a serious attitude on the plane. Especially on the flight deck, which is the latest euphemism for cockpit. Can't imagine why they'd want to avoid a colorful word like cockpit, can you? Especially with all those lovely stewardesses going in and out of it all the time. By the way, there's a word that's changed. Stewardess. First it was hostess, then stewardess. Now it's flight attendant. You know what I call her? The lady on the plane. These days, sometimes it's a man on the plane. That's good. Equality. I'm all in favor of that. The flight attendants are also sometimes referred to as uniformed crew members. Oh, good, uniformed, as opposed to this guy next to me in the Grateful Dead t-shirt and the fuck you hat, who's currently working on his 9th little bottle of Kahlua. As soon as they close the door to the aircraft, they begin the safety lecture. I love the safety lecture. It's my favorite part of the flight. I listen very carefully, especially to the part where they teach us how to use the seatbelt. Imagine that. A plane full of grown humans, many of them partially educated, and someone is actually taking the time to describe the intricate workings of a belt buckle. Place the small metal flap into the buckle. Well, at that point I raise my hand and ask for clarification. Over here, please. Over here. Yes. Thank you very much. Did I hear you correctly? Did you say place the small metal flap into the buckle, or did you say place the buckle over and around the small metal flap? I'm a simple man. I do not possess an engineering degree, nor am I mechanically inclined. Sorry to have taken up so much of your time. Please continue with your wonderful safety lecture. Seatbelt. High-tech shit. The lecture continues. The next thing they advise me to do is to locate my nearest emergency exit. Well, I do this immediately. I locate my nearest emergency exit, and I plan my escape route. You have to plan your escape route. It's not always a straight line, is it? No, sometimes there's a really big fat fuck sitting right in front of you. Well, I know I'll never be able to climb over him, so I look around for women and children, midgets and dwarfs, cripples, elderly widows, paralyzed veterans, and people with broken legs. Anyone who looks like they don't move too well. The emotionally disturbed come in very handy at a time like this. It's true I may have to go out of my way to find some of these people, but I'll get out of the plane a whole lot quicker, believe you me. My strategy is clear. I'll go around the fat fuck, step on the widow's head, push those children aside, knock down the paralyzed midget, and escape from the plane. In order, of course, to assist the other passengers who are still trapped inside the burning wreckage. After all, I can be of no help to anyone if I'm lying in the aisle unconscious with some big cocksucker standing on my neck. I must get out of the plane, make my way to a nearby farmhouse, have a Dr. Pepper, and call the police. The safety lecture continues. In the unlikely event... This is a very suspect phrase, especially coming as it does from an industry that is willing to lie about arrival and departure times. In the unlikely event of a sudden change in cabin pressure, roof flies off. An oxygen mask will drop down in front of you. Place the mask over your face and breathe normally. Well, no problem there. I always breathe normally when I'm in an uncontrolled 600-mile-an-hour vertical dive. I also shit normally, directly into my pants. Then they tell me to adjust my oxygen mask before helping my child with his. Well, that's one thing I didn't need to be told. In fact, I'm probably going to be too busy screaming to help my child at all. This will be a good time for him to learn self-reliance. If he can surf the fucking internet, he can goddamn jolly well learn to adjust an oxygen mask. It's a fairly simple thing, just a little elastic band in the back. Not nearly as complicated as, say, a seatbelt. The safety lecture continues. In the unlikely event of a water landing... A water landing? Am I mistaken, or does this sound somewhat similar to crashing into the ocean? Your seat cushion can be used as a flotation device. Well, imagine that. My seat cushion, just what I need, to float around the North Atlantic for several days, clinging to a pillow full of beer farts. The announcements suddenly cease. We're about to take off. Time for me to drift off to sleep, so the captain can later awaken me repeatedly with the many valuable sightseeing announcements he will be making along the way. I'm always amazed at the broad knowledge these men have of the United States, and some of them apparently have really good eyesight. A few folks seated on the left side of the plane, that's old Ben Hubbard's place down there. And what do you know, there's Ben coming out onto his porch right now. What's he doing? By God, he's picking his nose. Wow, look at that one. That is one prize booger. And look, he's throwing it into a bush. Ain't that just like old Ben? Over on the right... Suddenly I'm awake. The flight is almost over, and somehow along the way the captain has become politicized. His latest offering. Ladies and gentlemen, we have just begun our gradual descent into the Los Angeles area, similar in many ways to the gradual descent of this once great nation from a proud paragon of God-fearing virtue to a third-rate power awash in violence, sexual excess, and personal greed. I drift off again and awaken just as the end-of-flight announcements are being made. The captain has turned on the fasten seatbelt sign. Here we go again. Who gives a shit who turned on the sign? What does that have to do with anything? It's on, isn't it? And by the way, isn't it about time we found out who made this man a captain? Did I sleep through some sort of armed forces swearing-in ceremony? Captain my ass, the man is a fucking pilot, and he should be happy with that. If those sightseeing announcements are any mark of his intelligence, the man's lucky to be working at all. Having endured enough nonsense from this so-called captain, I finally raise my voice. Tell the captain Air Marshal Carlin says he should go fuck himself. The next sentence I hear is filled with language that pisses me off. Before leaving the aircraft, please check around your immediate seating area for any personal belongings you might have brought on board. Well, let's start with immediate seating area. Seat. It's a goddamn seat. For any personal belongings. Well, what other kinds of belongings do they think I have? Public belongings? Do they honestly think I brought along a fountain I stole from the park? You might have brought on board. Well, I might have brought my Shoshone arrowhead collection. I didn't, so I'm not going to look for it. Then they say we'll be landing shortly. Doesn't that sound like we're going to miss the runway? Final approach is not too promising either. Final is not a good word to be using on an airplane. Sometimes the pilot will speak up and say, "We'll be on the ground in 15 minutes. Well, that seems a little vague. On the ground could mean any number of things, most of them not very good. By this time, we're taxiing in, and the flight attendant is saying, "Welcome to Los Angeles International Airport." Well, how can someone who is just arriving herself possibly welcome me to a place she hasn't gotten to yet? Doesn't this violate some law of physics? We've been on the ground barely 4 seconds, and she's coming on like the mayor's wife. We're the local time. Well, of course it's the local time. What did they think I was expecting, the time in Norway? Enjoy your stay in Los Angeles or wherever your final destination might be. Someone should really tell these airline people that all destinations are final. That's what destination means. Destiny. It's final. Think of it this way. If you haven't gotten where you're going, you probably aren't there yet. The captain has asked. More shit from the bogus captain. You know, for someone who's supposed to be flying an airplane, he's taking a mighty big interest in what I'm doing back here. That you remain seated until he has brought the aircraft to a complete stop. A complete stop. Not a partial stop. No, because during a partial stop, I partially get up, partially get my bags, and partially leave the plane. Please continue to observe the no smoking sign until well inside the terminal. Folks, I've tried this. Let me tell you, it is physically impossible to observe the no smoking sign even from just outside the airplane, much less from well inside the terminal. In fact, you can't even see the airplanes from well inside the terminal. Which brings us to terminal, another unfortunate word to be using in association with air travel, and they use it all over the airport. Somehow I can't get hungry at a place called the Terminal Restaurant. Then again, if you've ever eaten there, you know the name is quite appropriate. When you make a sandwich at home, do you reach down past the first few slices of bread to get the really good bread? It's sort of a survival thing. Let my family eat the rotten bread. I'll take care of numero uno. And sometimes the issue isn't the freshness, but it's the size of the slice you're after. Everyone knows the wider slices are somewhere down near the middle. So down you go, past about 6 inferior slices to reach the ones you want. And then as you pull them up, you have to be careful they don't tear. And then just before you get them out, the top 6 slices shift position and fall perpendicular to the rest of the loaf. I leave 'em that way. Let the family think a burglar made a sandwich. Cars and driving. You want to go for a ride? Okay, let's go for a ride. Actually, you'll go for a ride. I'll go for a drive. The one who drives the car goes for a drive. The other person goes for a ride. Most folks aren't aware of that. Tell them when they're getting into your car. Say, "You assholes are going for a ride. I'm going for a drive, 'cause I'm the one who's making the payments on this shit box." Now, for purposes of description, you'll have to picture my car, an old, poorly maintained, dangerous collection of faulty parts from that wonderful time before safety became such a big goddamn deal in this country. My car's like any other small car, real hard to get into. That's important, because after all, you gotta get into the car first. Otherwise, way I look at it, you ain't going nowhere. And let's not forget, with any kind of car, just opening the driver's door and getting in involves a certain amount of risk. Have you noticed that? The terrific way they designed cars so the driver's door opens right out into the middle of goddamn traffic? Jesus, about the only intelligent thing the British ever did was putting that driver's seat right over there near the curb where it belongs. Of course, then they went and moved the curb to the wrong side of the street. Anyway, Like I said, no small car is easy to get into, but especially if you park the way I do. Illegally, 2 feet out from the curb on a busy high-speed thoroughfare right in the middle of rush hour. And that sort of car entry is even riskier if you got a 2-door and you're trying to stuff a couple of shopping bags full of groceries into the back seat while everyone else is zipping past you close enough to smell your breath. Holy shit, look out, here comes a drunken bus driver. Quick, abandon groceries. Stand up straight, squeeze against the car and pull that door as close to your body as you can, taking care, of course, not to cut off circulation to your feet. Holy shit, that was close. Good thing you went into emergency mode. And be honest, you didn't really need them groceries, did you? God damn, look at how flat that bus made everything. Imagine a flank steak with tread marks. And might that just possibly be potato juice on the ground? One more thing about car entry. My car has got one of them tricky kind of door handles, the kind that are recessed a little bit into the door itself. You know the ones I mean, where your fingers actually go in a little bit past the surface of the car till you grab a hold of the handle. Don't you like them? I do. That's why they don't make them anymore. They found out I like them. That's the way it is with everything. They find out I like it, they stop making it. Anyway, back to my car. I also got me one of them doors that when you open it, it swings all the way open. You know the kind I mean? All the way open, perpendicular to the car. I ain't got one of them fancy doors that hangs out there halfway and stays where you want it to. With my door, we got 2 things, open and shut. Pick one. And if I should be trying to do something really tricky, like get into the car, well, in a case like that, I gotta prop that door open with a broom handle, 'cause otherwise, sure as hell, soon as I'm halfway in, that door's gonna swing back hard as it can and sever my leg just below the knee. God, that shit hurts. Hurts for about 1.5 years, don't it? And them huge purple blotches, seems like they never go away. Now, I want to mention one additional problem I have when I'm getting into my car. Like I told you, it's kind of old and upkeep has been minimal, so there's another thing I got to deal with. A long time ago, my driver's seat got pushed way up forward on the runners, about as far as it can go, and apparently it ain't never coming back. You see, what happened was, years ago, about 30 or 40 of them little pop-top beer can rings got wedged into the seat tracks, and now they're all fused into one solid piece of metal, and that fucking seat ain't never gonna move again. Unless, of course, there's an atomic attack, in which case it probably ain't gonna budge more than an inch or two. So, because of all this unintentional seat redesign, when I get into full driving mode, I'm pretty much hanging out right behind the radiator. In fact, if I want to check my speedo, I gotta look straight down into my crotch. But hey, at least I'm in the car. But maybe you're not. Maybe I ought to mention one more common car re-entry problem. I know that some of you faint-hearted folks like to play it safe by parking right in the mall parking lot. And of course, when you park the car, you do so in such a manner that leaves you full access to the door. But while you're in the mall charging all that worthless merchandise, some asshole parks right next to you, leaves about 6 inches between cars, and now you can't get your door open more than 3 or 4 degrees at best. So, in order to gain access, you gotta try to wedge yourself through a tiny little crack while balancing 6 gift-wrap packages, all the time maintaining the integrity of a lit cigarette hanging off your lip. Besides which, your own particular lumbar spine is not the best one God ever put together, and everybody knows that even a proper back is not made for getting into a car under circumstances such as these. And by the way, as most men know, trying to squeeze into a car in that manner also creates a potential for serious ball injury from the steering wheel. Many's the family planning program that's gone out the window due to poor parking. Solution? Always park way down at the far end of the parking lot where the homeless people live. Your back and your balls will thank you, and the walk will do you good. Anyway, at this point I think we're all in the car, so now I'll just reach over here, and I'll just reach over here. Oh shit, goddamn door is still wide open. Well, maybe if I lean way out and stretch my arm as far as it'll go, maybe without actually getting up, I can actually reach out and... fuck it. It appears, folks, that today we're going to be driving with the door wide open. What the heck, it's a lovely day, and they say an open driver's door actually helps a little bit on left-hand turns. Acts like a rudder, increasing the drag factor on the port side. Okay, now we're going to be taking our little drive in just a minute or two here, but first a philosophical question. Have you ever noticed that when you're driving, anyone going slower than you is an idiot, and anyone going faster than you is a maniac? Will you look at this idiot? Look at him, just creeping along. Whoa, holy shit, look at that maniac go. Well, I tell you, folks, it's a wonder we ever get anywhere at all with all the idiots and maniacs out there, 'cause no one ever drives at my speed. Actually, I don't let people drive at my speed. If I see some guy in the next lane keeping pace with me, I slow down. I let that asshole get a little bit ahead so I can keep an eye on him. I like to know who I'm driving near. In fact, quite often at a red light, I'll ask for personal references. You can never be too careful. Okay, now, a few basic points about driving. One of the first things they teach you in driver's ed is where to put your hands on the steering wheel. They tell you to put them at 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock. Never mind that shit. I put mine at 9:45 and 2:17. Gives me an extra half hour to get where I'm going. Now, most drivers know that some things that happen in the car can cause great embarrassment. I've never done any of these things myself, of course, but I'm sure you'll recognize a few of them. Here's a good example. You ever been driving someone else's car, and for some reason they're in the car too? You know what I mean? Let's say they got pushed off the balcony of a crack house and broke both their ankles, and they can't drive, so you're taking them out to buy some crack. You're driving their car, but you're used to driving your car, and their gear shift handle is mounted on the opposite side from where yours is, and suddenly you go to shift gears and break their fucking turn signal off. Just break it clean off the steering column. Holy shit, came right off, didn't it? God damn, you'll have to get a new one of them. Here, throw this old sucker out the window. It ain't no good to you now. Shit, that broke easy, didn't it? Some things break easy. Just break right off. Like radio dials, the old kind, the knob kind. Damn, those things were fragile. You'd be driving along just trying to tune in something on the radio, trying to find some kind of music you could actually tolerate, and you just keep turning and turning and turning that dial until finally you got way over onto the right-hand side of the dashboard and ran clean out of radio stations, and then holy shit, came right off, didn't it? God damn, gotta throw that mother away. Give me a fresh one out of that little bag, will you? I got about 50 of those motherfuckers. Damn, they break easy. So you stick a new knob onto the radio and keep turning and turning and turning until finally you wind up past the glove compartment listening to some radio station located over near the right-hand mirror. Damn, some things break easy. I'm a great believer in using every piece of equipment on the car, every feature, every option, even if you don't need it. Fuck it, you paid for the car, use everything. Use the sun visor, even on a cloudy day. Flip it up, flip it down. Flip it over to the side like the French people do. Lower the passenger's visor, even if no one is sitting there. Open the ashtray, push in the lighter. Who cares if you don't smoke? Turn all the knobs, press all the buttons. Have a lot of fun. Change the mirrors all around. Press the trunk release, pop the hood open. Put your seat in a ridiculous position. Lower all the windows. Stick out your hand. Tell the other drivers to slow down. You have power. Use hand signals. Tell them to slow down, and then tell them to stop. Stop, stop. Then let one guy go. Only one. Okay, you can go. Go, go, go. No, not you. Just him. Okay, now you. Go, go, go. You have power. Use it. Fuck it. You're making the car payments. Have a little fun. Ladies and gentlemen, we're privileged to have with us a man known around the world as the Prince of Peace, Jesus Christ. How are you, Jesus? Fine, thanks. And let me say it's great to be back. Why, after all this time, have you come back? Mostly nostalgia. Could you tell us a little about the first time you were here? Well, there's not much to tell. I think everybody knows the story by now. I was born on Christmas, and actually that always bothered me, because I only got one present. You know, if I was born a couple of months earlier, I would have got 2 presents. But look, I'm not complaining. After all, it's only material goods. There's a story that there were 3 wise men. Well, there were 3 kings who showed up. I don't know how wise they were. They didn't look very wise. They said they followed a star. That don't sound wise to me. Didn't they bring gifts? Yeah, that's right. Gold, frankincense, and I believe myrrh, which I never did find out what that was. You don't happen to know what myrrh is, do you? Well, I believe it's a reddish-brown bitter gum resin. Oh, great. Just what I need. What am I going to do with a gum resin? I'd rather have the money. That way I could buy something I need. You know, something I wouldn't normally buy for myself. Well, what would that be? I don't know. A bathing suit? I never had a bathing suit. Maybe a Devo hat? possibly a bicycle. I really could have used a bicycle. Do you realize all the walking I did? I must have crossed Canaan 6 or 8 times, up and down, north and south, walking and talking, doing miracles, telling stories. Tell us about the miracles, Jesus. How many miracles did you perform? Well, leaving out the loaves and the fishes, I would say a total of 107 miracles. Well, why not the loaves and fishes? Well, technically, that one wasn't a miracle. It wasn't? No. Turns out a lot of people were putting them back. They were several days old. And besides, not all those miracles were pure miracles anyway. Well, what do you mean? If they weren't miracles, what were they? Well, some of them were parlor tricks, optical illusions, mass hypnosis. Sometimes people were just hallucinating. I even used acupressure. That's how I cured most of the blind people, acupressure. So not all of the New Testament is true? Nah, some of the gospel stuff never happened at all. It was just made up. Luke and Mark used a lot of drugs. Luke was a physician and he had access to drugs. Matthew and John were okay, but Luke and Mark would write anything. Well, what about raising Lazarus from the dead? First of all, he wasn't dead, okay? He was hung over. I've told people that. But in the Bible, you said he was dead. No, I said he looked dead. I says, geez, Peter, this guy looks dead. You see, Lazarus was a very heavy sleeper. Plus, the day before, we had been to a wedding feast, and he had put away a lot of wine. Oh, was that the wedding feast at Cana, where you changed the water into wine? I don't know. We went to an awful lot of wedding feasts in those days. But did you ever really turn water into wine? Not that I know of. One time I turned apple juice into milk, but I don't recall the water and wine. All right, speaking of water, let me ask you about another miracle. What about walking on water? Did that really happen? Oh, yeah, that was one that really happened. You see, the problem was I could do it and the other guys couldn't. They were jealous. Peter got so mad at me, he had these special shoes made, special big shoes that if you started out walking real fast, you could stay on top of the water for a while. Then, of course, after a few yards, bada boom, down he goes right into the water. He sinks like a rock. That's why I called him Peter. Thou art Peter, and upon this rock I shall build my church. Well, that brings up the apostles. What can you tell us about the apostles? They smelled like bait, but they were a good bunch of guys. 13 of them we had. 13? The Bible says there were only 12. Well, that was according to Luke. I told you about Luke. Actually, we had 13. We had Peter, James, John, Andrew, Philip, Bartholomew, Matthew, Thomas, James, that's a different James, Thaddeus. How many is that now? That's 10. Okay, Simon, Judas, and Red. Red? Yeah, Red the Apostle. Red the Apostle doesn't appear in the Bible. Nah, Red kept pretty much to himself. He never came to any of the wedding feasts. He was a little strange. He thought the Red Sea was named after him. And what about Judas? Don't get me started on Judas, a completely unpleasant person, okay? Well, what about the other apostles? Say, for instance, Thomas. Was he really a doubter? Believe me, this guy Thomas, you couldn't tell him nothing. He's always asking me for ID. Soon as I would see him, he would go, "You got any ID?" To this day, he doesn't believe I'm God. And are you God? Well, partly. I'm a member of the Trinity. Yes, in fact, you're writing a book about the Trinity. That's right. It's called Three's a Crowd. As I understand it, it's nothing more than a thinly veiled attack on the Holy Ghost. Listen, it's not an attack, okay? It happens I don't get along with the Holy Ghost, so I leave him alone. That's it. What he does is his business. Well, what's the reason? Well, first of all, he's a wise guy. Every time he shows up, he's something different. One day he's a dove, another day he's a tongue of fire, always fooling around. I don't bother with the guy. I don't want to know about him. I don't want to see him. I don't want to talk to him. Well, then let me change the subject. Is there really a place called hell? Oh, yeah, there's a hell, all right. There's also a heck. It's not as severe as hell, but we've got a heck and a hell. What about purgatory? No, I don't know about no purgatory. We got heaven, hell, heck, and limbo. Well, what is limbo like? I don't know. No one's allowed in there. If anybody was in there, it wouldn't be limbo. It would just be another place. I see. Well, getting back to your previous visit, what can you tell us about the Last Supper? Well, first of all, if I'd have known I was going to be crucified, I would have had a bigger meal. You never want to be crucified on an empty stomach. As it was, I had a little salad and some veal. The crucifixion must have been terrible. Ah, yeah, it was awful. Unless you went through it yourself, you could never really know how painful it was. And tiring. It was very, very tiring. But I think more than anything else it was embarrassing. In front of all those people to be crucified like that. But I guess it redeemed a lot of people. I hope so. It would be a shame to do it for no reason. Were you scared? Oh, yeah. I was afraid it was going to rain. I thought for sure I would get hit by lightning. One good thing, though, while I was up there, I had a really great view. I could actually see my house. There's always a bright side. And then 3 days later, you rose from the dead? Huh? On Easter Sunday, you rose from the dead, didn't you? Not that I know of. I think I would remember something like that. I do remember sleeping a long time after the crucifixion. Like I said, it was very tiring. I think what might have happened was I passed out and they thought I was dead. We didn't have such good medical people in those days. It was mostly volunteers. And according to the Bible, 40 days later you ascended into heaven. Pulleys. Ropes, pulleys, and a harness. I think it was Simon who came up with this great harness thing that went under my toga. You couldn't see it at all. Since that day, I've been in heaven, and all in all, I would have to say that while I was down here, I had a really good time, except for the suffering. And what do you think about Christianity today? Well, I'm a little embarrassed by it, Geez, I wish they would take my name off of it. If I had the whole thing to do over, I would probably start one of those Eastern religions like Buddha. Buddha was smart. That's how come he's laughing. So you wouldn't want to be a Christian? Nah, I wouldn't want to be a member of any group whose symbol is a man nailed onto some wood, especially if it's me. Buddha's laughing. Meanwhile, I'm on the cross. I have a few more questions. Do you mind? Hey, be my guest. How often do I get here? Are there really angels? Well, not as many as we used to have. Years ago, we had millions of them. Today, you can't get the young people to join. It got too dangerous with all the radar and the heat-seeking missiles. Well, what about guardian angels? Are there such things? Yes, we still have guardian angels, but now, with the population explosion, it's one angel for every 6 people. Years ago, everybody had his own angel. But changing the subject, do you really answer prayers? No. First of all, what with the sunspots and radio interference, a lot of prayers don't even get through. And between you and me, we just don't have the staff to handle the workload anymore. In the old days, we took pride in answering every single prayer. But like I said, there were less people then. And in those days, people prayed for something simple, to light a fire, to catch a yak, something like that. But today, you got people praying for hockey teams, for longer fingernails, to lose weight. We just can't keep up. Well, I think we're about out of time. I certainly want to thank you for visiting with us. Hey, no sweat. Do you have any words of advice? You mean like how to remove chewing gum from a suede garment, something like that? No, I mean spiritual advice. Well, I don't know how spiritual it is, but I'd say one thing is, don't give your money to the church. They should be giving their money to you. Well, thank you, Jesus, and good night. Well, good night. Thanks for having me on here today. And by the way, in case anyone is interested, Bell Bottoms will be coming back in the year 2015. Ciao! The American Businessman's 10 Steps to Product Development. Can I cut corners in the design? Can it be shoddily built? Can I use cheap materials? Will it create hazards for my workers? Will it harm the environment? Can I evade the safety laws? Will children die from it? Can I overprice it? Can it be falsely advertised? Will it force smaller competitors out of business? Excellent. Let's get busy, men. In the expression topsy-turvy, what exactly is meant by turvy? I'm curious, what precisely is Zsa Zsa Gabor's job title? If free trade can really turn all these third-world countries into thriving economies full of entrepreneurs and investors, who's going to clean the fucking toilets around here? If it requires a uniform, it's a worthless endeavor. True stuff. There's actually a TV commercial in Las Vegas that advertises a service called Discount Bankruptcy. There is now a Starbucks in my pants. Here's an odd fact. When two women with different colored hair walk together on the sidewalk, the one with the darker hair will always be positioned closest to the curb. Tennis tip. You get a better return of serve if you let the ball bounce twice before hitting it. I think people on a diet should have a salad dressing called 250 Islands. Can anyone explain to me the need for 1 hour photo finishing? You just saw the fucking thing. How can you possibly be nostalgic about a concept like a little while ago? When I was a boy, on Good Friday in my parish, in order to dramatize the extent of Jesus' suffering, a group of the priests used to get together and crucify one of the children. By and large, language is a tool for concealing the truth. What is all this shit about Dick Clark not looking his age? Take a closer look. You know my favorite play in baseball? The beanball. It's great, isn't it? It's dramatic, especially if the guy is really hurt. Sometimes the ball hits the helmet and you feel kind of disappointed, even though it makes a good loud noise. Do you ever open the dictionary right to the page you want? Doesn't that feel good? Here's my idea for another one of those reality-based TV shows. No survivors. One by one, a psychopathic serial killer tracks down and kills all of the survivors. Think of it as a public service. As far as I'm concerned, humans have not yet come up with a belief worth believing. People get all upset about torture, but when you get right down to it, it's really a pretty good way of finding out something a person doesn't want you to know. How soon can we begin to execute these yuppy half-wits who name their golden retrievers Jake and put red bandanas around their necks? Apparently this is viewed as amusing or ironic or some other quality yuppies value highly. It isn't amusing. It's precious half-wit bullshit. They say only 10% of the brain's function is known. Apparently, the function of the remaining 90% is to keep us from discovering its function. Ethnic-wise, I'll tell you this. If I hadn't turned out to be Irish, I would have really liked to be a Guinea. You know the good part about all those executions in Texas? Fewer Texans. I'm tired of hearing about innocent victims. It's fiction. If you live on this planet, you're guilty, period, fuck you, next case, end of report. Your birth certificate is proof of guilt. Do you ever get that strange feeling of vujade? Not déjà vu, vujade. It's the distinct sense that somehow something that just happened has never happened before. Nothing seems familiar. And then suddenly the feeling is gone. Vujade. Spirituality, the last refuge of a failed human. Just another way of distracting yourself from who you really are. I have a problem with these married yuppies who carry their babies in backpacks or front packs or slings or whatever these devices are called, these baby-carrying devices that seem designed to leave the parents' hands free to sort through merchandise. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Natural Fibers, is it too much trouble to ask you to hold the fucking kid? Are you so busy picking out consumer goods and reaching for your credit card that you can't hold the baby? It's not an accessory. It's not a small appliance. It's a baby. Most of the time, people feel okay. It's probably because at that moment they're not actually dying. You know what I like about the American form of government? They've worked things out so that you're never far from a 7-Eleven. I just realized I haven't eaten an ice cream sandwich in 47 years. I've never been quarantined, but the more I look around, the more I think it might not be such a bad thing. Here's some fun. Run into a bakery and ask if they can bake a cake in the shape of a penis. They're never quite sure. They always have to have a meeting. Well, I don't know. Wait, just a moment. Well, while they're talking, pull out your schwanz and wave it all around. Good Lord, Helen, quick, order more flour. I don't think we should be governing ourselves. What we need is a king, and every now and then, if the king's not doing a good job, we kill him. So far, This is the oldest I've ever been. You know, I think someone could make a lot of money if they set up a little stand at the Grand Canyon and sold yo-yos with 500-foot strings. Road rage, air rage. Why should I be forced to divide my rage into separate categories? To me, it's just one big all-around everyday rage. I don't have time for fine distinctions. I'm busy screaming at people. There's something I like about the clitoris, but I can't quite put my finger on it. Driving is fun, isn't it? Did you ever run over a guy, huh? And then you panic, so you back up and run over him again? Did you ever notice the second crunch is not as loud as the first? I think it's because the guy already has tread marks on him. But there he is, lying right in front of your car. Hey, might as well run over him again. What are you going to do this time? Drive around him? When Ronald Reagan got Alzheimer's disease, how could they tell? Sometimes they say the winds are calm. Well, if they're calm, they're not really winds, are they? I think a good title for a travel book would be Doorway to Norway. Next time they give you all that civic bullshit about voting, keep in mind that Hitler was elected in a full, free democratic election. Murder investigators say that in most cases, husbands kill wives, wives kill husbands, children kill parents, and parents kill children. Thank God for a little sanity in the world. Regarding the Boy Scouts, I'm very suspicious of any organization that has a handbook. If there really are multiple universes, what do they call the thing they're all a part of? Instead of warning pregnant women not to drink, I think female alcoholics ought to be told not to fuck. When I was a kid, I was a fussy eater. That's what they called it at our house. He's a fussy eater. Fussy eater is a euphemism for big pain in the ass. They'd trot out some food and I'd say, I don't like that. Why? I don't know. I know I don't like it, and I know that if I ate it, I would like it even less. Well, I like it. Yum, yum. Hey, Ma, you like it? You eat it. Sometimes they would try to corner me with logic. Well, how do you know you don't like it if you've never even tried it? It came to me in a dream. Big pain in the ass. Some things I didn't like because of the way they sounded. Don't sound right to me, Ma. Say that again? Asparagus. Nah, I don't like that. Imagine, I got away with that shit for 8 or 9 years. To this day, there are still some things I won't eat because of how they sound. Yogurt sounds disgusting. Yogurt. I can't eat anything that has both a Y and a G in it. Squash is also badly named. You want some squash? Sounds like someone sat on dinner. How would you like a nice tongue sandwich? It's made from slices of a cow's tongue. Hey, Ma, are you fucking trying to make me sick? There are also some foods that sound too funny to eat, like guacamole. Sounds like something you yell when you're on fire. Holy guacamole, my ass is burning. Or when you can't remember the name of something. Ed, where's that little guacamole that plugs into the lamp? Another food too funny to eat, garbanzo beans. Sounds like acrobats. Ladies and gentlemen, from Corsica, the fabulous garbanzos. On the other hand, there were some foods I didn't like because of how they looked. That seems a bit more rational. I don't like that. Don't look right to me. Did you make that, Ma? Is there a picture of it in the cookbook? I'll bet it don't look like that. Of course, some people will eat anything, no matter how it looks. I saw guys like that on the chow line in the Army. Hi, boys, what do you got? I'll eat anything. What's that called? Never mind, give me a whole bunch of it. That's rat's asshole, Don. Well, it sure makes a hell of a fondue. Not me. I don't eat anything I don't recognize immediately. If I have to ask questions, I pass. I'm not at dinner to make inquiries. Give me something I can recognize, like a carrot. I know I can trust a carrot. Now, there are some foods that even though I know what they are, I still don't like their looks. Tomatoes, for instance. My main problem with tomatoes is that they don't look as though they're fully developed. They look like they're still in the larval stage. Thousands of tiny seeds and a whole lot of jelly-looking slime. Get it off my plate! It's slimy! It's like that stuff at the end of an egg. Course, I know it's not the end of an egg. It's the beginning of a chicken. It's hen come. Ah! Get it off my plate! Oh, I'm fun in the coffee shop. Lobsters and crabs don't look like food to me either. Anything with big pinchers crawling toward me sideways doesn't make me hungry. In fact, my instinct is step on that fuck. Step on him before he gets to the children. And I definitely cannot eat oysters. Not for the usual reason, their similarity to snot, but because when I look at the whole oyster, I think, hey, that's a little house. Somebody lives in there. I'm not going to break in on a guy just to have a meal. He might be making a pearl. Maybe he just brought home a do-it-yourself pearl kit and cleared off the dining room table. Who am I to interfere with the plans of an oyster? What wine goes with Captain Crunch? I have trouble selecting a wine in the morning. Sometimes I give up, smoke a bong full of Fruit Loops, and just go back to bed. Try that sometime. Smoke a bong full of Fruit Loops, go back to bed, and watch the mid-morning movie. Call your boss. Tell him you smoked some Fruit Loops, you're watching a movie, and you'll be in around 2:30. That is, if you feel like it. That's the way you handle a boss, you know. You can't take shit from someone just 'cause you work for him. Let him know who the real boss is. Tell him it's your job and you'll do it your way. That's what bosses like, people with spunk. Act the same way when you go in for a job interview. Let him know what kind of a person you are. Have a beer opener and some swizzle sticks sticking out of your breast pocket. Put a little confetti in your hair. Tell him your primary career is partying and work is kind of a sideline. Tell the interviewer you'll need an office near the front door so you can leave in a hurry at 5 o'clock. I ain't sticking around this fucking place after hours, I'll tell you that right now. Let 'em know what's happening. Tell 'em you hope it's not one of those chicken shit places where they dock your pay just for taking off Mondays and Fridays. Then, if you still don't have the job, point to the picture on his desk and say, "Who's the cunt?" That'll clinch it. You'll probably have a nice long career with that firm, once all your medical procedures have been completed. The butter warmer in the refrigerator is a strange invention. Originally, humans were cold, so they built a warm enclosure, a house. Cold outside, warm inside the house. Everything was fine until they realized that inside the warm enclosure, the meat tended to spoil. So they built a cold enclosure, a refrigerator, inside the warm enclosure. Warm in the house, cold in the refrigerator. Everything was fine until they realized that inside the cold enclosure, the butter got too hard to spread. So they built an even smaller warm enclosure, a butter warmer, inside the cold enclosure, which was already inside the larger warm enclosure. Strange. Have you ever been in one of those serious social situations when you suddenly realize you have to pull the underwear out of the crack in your ass? Do you, Enrique, take this woman, Blanca, to be your lawful wedded wife? Huh? Hold on, Rev. I got it. Jesus, that was in deep. Yes, I do, of course. Excuse me, Rev. Sometimes my shorts get sucked up way inside my asshole. Ain't love grand? Have you ever been at a really loud party where the music is deafening, and in order to be heard, you have to scream at the top of your lungs, even if you're talking to the person right next to you? But then often the music stops suddenly, and everyone quiets down at the same time, and only your voice can be heard ringing across the room. "Charlie, I'm going to have my testicles laminated." And everyone turns to look at Charlie's interesting friend. Have you ever been talking to a bunch of guys and you laugh through your nose and blow a snot on your shirt? And then you have to just kind of keep talking and hope they think it's part of the design? Works all right if you're wearing a Hawaiian shirt, but otherwise they're going to notice. "Hey, Ed, check it out. Dave's got a big snot on his shirt. Howie, look, Phil, come here. Dave just blew a big snot all over himself." Guys are such fun. Do you ever meet a guy, and as you're shaking his hand, you realize he doesn't have a complete hand? It feels like something's missing, and you're standing there holding a handful of deformed, knob-like flesh? It's unnerving, isn't it? But you can't react. You can't even look down at his hand. You have to make believe it feels great. You can't go, "Ew, how creepy, where's your other fingers?" You can't say that. It's not even an option. You have to hang in, smile big, and say, "Hey, swell hand, give me 3, okay, a high 3, yo, okay." Have you ever been talking to yourself when someone suddenly comes in the room and you have to make believe you were actually singing? And you hope to God the other person really believes there's a song called Fuck Her? Most vitamin pills don't have names or trademarks on them. They're just plain-looking unmarked pills. And if you're traveling with a lot of vitamins, and in order to save space you've put them all in one big jar, you have no way of proving what they are. If, for instance, the police should search your suitcase, all they're going to know is that you have a big jar of unmarked pills. And should they be in the mood to break your balls, they can hold you for 24 hours while they send these little things down to the lab and see what we've got here. And you wind up in jail overnight for no reason at all. That's why I always travel with Flintstone vitamins. Not only do Flintstone vitamins contain all the vital nutrients kids need each day, they also keep grown-ups out of jail. Honest, officer, they're Flintstone vitamins. Look, there's Wilma and Barney. By God, Ben, he's right. Look at this. It's Dino. It's a little purple Dino. Suddenly you're a free man, and a healthy one, too. Concerning the news coverage at the National Zoo, do you care if the pandas fuck? I don't. Why don't they stop telling us the pandas didn't fuck again this year? I'm not concerned. I have no emotional stake in panda fucking. If they want to, they will. If not, they'll watch The Price is Right. Probably the only reason the pandas aren't fucking on schedule is because some environmental jack-off has moved into the cage with them. Could you get a hard-on if some loser in a green T-shirt was taking your girlfriend's rectal temperature? Leave these creatures alone. And please, God, save the planet from environmentalists. Here's something else I'm getting tired of in this country. All this ignorant bullshit you have to listen to about children. It's all you hear anymore. Children, help the children, save the children, protect the children. You know what I say? Fuck the children. Fuck 'em. Fuck kids. They're getting entirely too much attention. And I know what some of you are thinking. You're saying, Jesus, he's not going to attack children, is he? Yes, he is. He's going to attack children. And remember, this is Mr. Conductor talking. I know what I'm talking about. And I also know that all of you boring single dads and working moms who think you're such fucking heroes aren't going to like this, but somebody's got to tell you for your own good. Your children are overrated and overvalued, and you've turned them into little cult objects. You have a child fetish, and it's not healthy. And I don't want to hear all that weak shit. Well, I love my children. Fuck you. Everybody loves their children. Doesn't make you special. John Wayne Gacy loved his children. Yes, he did. Kept them all right out in the yard near the garage. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is this constant mindless yammering in the media, this neurotic fixation, because that's all it is, that suggests somehow everything has to revolve around the lives of children. It's completely out of balance. Listen, there are a couple of things about kids you have to remember. Fine. First of all, they're not all cute. Okay? In fact, if you look at them real close, most of them are rather unpleasant looking. And a lot of them don't smell too good either. Have you noticed the little ones in particular seem to have a kind of a sour milk and urine combination? I don't care for that at all. Stay with me on this, folks. The sooner you face it, the better off you're going to be. Second premise, not all children are smart and clever. Got that? Kids are like any other group of people. A few winners, a whole lot of losers. This country is filled with loser kids who simply aren't going anywhere. And there's nothing you can do about it. Nothing. You can't save them all. You can't do it, folks. You got to let them go. You got to cut them loose. You got to stop overprotecting them because you're making them too soft. Today's kids are way too soft. For one thing, there's too much emphasis on safety and safety equipment. Child-proof medicine bottles and fireproof pajamas and child restraints in car seats and helmets. Bicycle, baseball, skateboard helmets. Kids have to wear helmets now for everything but jerking off. Grown-ups have taken all the fun out of being a kid just to save a few thousand lives. It's pathetic. It's fucking pathetic. What's happened is, these baby boomers, these soft, fruity baby boomers, have raised an entire generation of soft, fruity kids who aren't even allowed to have hazardous toys, for Christ's sakes. Hazardous toys, shit. Whatever happened to natural selection? Survival of the fittest. The kid who swallows too many marbles doesn't grow up to have kids of his own. Simple stuff. Nature knows best. We're saving entirely too many lives in this country, of all ages. Nature should be permitted to do its job of weeding out and killing off the weak and sickly and ignorant people without interference from airbags and batting helmets. You're lowering the human gene pool. Just think of these ideas as passive eugenics. And here's another example of overprotection for these kids, and you've seen this on the news. Do you ever notice every time some guy with an AK-47 wanders into the schoolyard and kills 3 or 4 of these fucking kids and a couple of teachers, the next day the school is overrun with psychologists and psychiatrists and grief counselors and trauma therapists trying to help the children cope? Shit, when I was a kid, some guy came into our school and killed 3 or 4 of us. We went right on with our arithmetic. 35 classmates minus 4 equals 31. We were tough. I say if a kid can handle the violence at home, he ought to be able to handle the violence at school. Here's another bunch of ignorant bullshit about your children. School uniforms. Bad theory. The idea that if kids wear uniforms to school, it helps keep order. Hey, don't these schools do enough damage making all these children think alike? Now they're going to get them to look alike, too? And it's not even a new idea. I first saw it in old newsreels from the 1930s, but it was hard to understand because the narration was in German. But the uniforms looked beautiful, and the children did everything they were told in Germany, and they never questioned authority. Gee, I wonder why someone would want to put our children in uniforms. Can't imagine. And one more item about children, and that is this superstitious nonsense that blames tobacco companies for kids who smoke. Listen, kids don't smoke because a camel in sunglasses tells them to. They smoke for the same reasons you do, because it's an enjoyable activity that relieves anxiety and depression. And you'd be anxious and depressed, too, if you had to put up with these pathetic, insecure, striving, anal, yuppie parents who enroll you in college before you're old enough to know which side of the playpen smells the worst, and then they fill you full of Ritalin, fill you full of drugs to get you in a mood they approve of, and drag you all over town in search of empty, meaningless structure. Little League, Cub Scouts, swimming, soccer, karate, piano, bagpipes, dildo practice, I don't know what they're doing. They even have play dates, for Christ's sakes. Playing is now done by appointment. Whatever happened to you show me your wee-wee and I'll show you mine? You never hear that anymore. But a lot of these parents are burning their kids out on structure. I say what every child needs and ought to have every day is 2 hours of daydreaming. Just daydreaming. Turn off the computer games, the CD-ROMs, and the internet, and just let them stare at a tree for a couple hours. It's good for them. And every now and then they actually come up with one of their own ideas. You want to know how you can help your children? Leave them the fuck alone. Did you ever eat a whole box of cookies right in a row? Did you ever do that? I don't mean take them into your bedroom or something. I mean open them right up in the kitchen as soon as you get home from the store and eat them while you're standing there. Just stare at the toaster while you're eating a whole goddamn box of cookies. You ever do that? Isn't it great? And did you ever notice that printed right on the cookie box it says open here? Well, what did they think I was going to do? Move to Hong Kong to open up their fucking cookies? Of course I'm going to open them here. I'm going to eat them here. I'd almost have to open them here. Thank God it doesn't say open somewhere else. I'd be up all night trying to figure out an appropriate location.